When when it's time to begin, it's on the Review of Raw with John Pollock and Wai Ting, the A-team that makes sense of these things we see in the ring every week on TV. It's Review of Raw for Monday night, download it Tuesday morning from the Fight Network site. It's Review of Raw for Monday night on USA Now on the John and Wai Take the Mic.
Hello everybody, welcome to Review of Raw. It is John Pollock and I'm joined as always by Wai Ting, who started off in a much different time zone than the one he is currently occupying. I don't know how you're doing, Wai, so that's why I'm going to ask you.
Oh, I'm doing fine. I'm doing good. Man, that fucking last segment on Raw, though. That was tough.
Oh boy. With that said, let us get into Raw from Monday night. And Kurt Angle came out to chants of, "You suck and you still got it." And he said, every story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And he added a new chapter, which was a direct quote from the promotional video that they used on Sunday night for his return. So someone really loved that line they came up with. He plugs the Survivor Series because that's the event he debuted at in 1999. And it's going to be Raw versus SmackDown with their champions versus our champions. And Angle announces the following matches: Alexa Bliss versus Natalya, The Miz versus Baron Corbin, Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose versus the Usos, and the biggest one of them all, Brock Lesnar versus Jinder Mahal, which I am going to pronounce for the rest of eternity as
Mahal.
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 He's never watched SmackDown.
Unbelievable. Yeah, unbelievable.
These are some
Mahal.
weird matches, Wai. Are you expecting any title changes over the next month? Because these are some wacky matches.
I do not expect any title changes over the next month, and that's why I hate this concept for the pay-per-view. I hate champion versus champion matches. I hated bragging rights.
Heel versus heel matches too. We got Miz and Corbin and Alexa and Natalya.
It's all fucked up. The whole thing is fucked up, and we saw the first instance of it at the end of Raw tonight. I mean, you're putting basically the whole thing, your whole company, on hold in a holding pattern. You're putting all your storylines in a holding pattern just so you could do this champion versus champion nonsense at Survivor Series. You're not going to get that much chance for people to interact on the shows. You have to have these placeholder storylines because you don't have that interaction between the shows, and it waters everything down. At the end of these matches, they're not leading to any longer, I guess, storylines that result in anything more substantial. So I'm not a fan of it. I wasn't a fan when you brought it up last week, and I'm certainly not a fan now when they've confirmed it. So I don't like it.
Yeah, and I mean, we'll see how this all shapes up, but in addition to these four matches with the champions, there will be two traditional Survivor Series matches, a 5-on-5 men's match and a 5-on-5 women's match. And the Raw team, when you look at this, I mean, Lesnar's in a match, Rollins and Ambrose are in a match. I guess you're banking that Roman Reigns will be back in time for the Survivor Series, but you never know. I mean, who is going to make up this Raw team? Braun Strowman is theoretically dead. Kane, Bray Wyatt, Finn Balor. Is this your Raw team?
I would assume Finn, yeah.
Cesaro and Sheamus?
I guess.
Like, it's going to be a makeup of pretty much the heels from Sunday night. That's going to be your team with, like, Finn.
Brock's taken up. I mean, I don't anticipate. What do you think will main event? It has to be Brock and Jinder Mahal, right?
After that promo from Heyman, I don't know if it's even on the kickoff show.
I mean, if it's your champion versus champion match.
Yeah, theoretically that goes on last. That should not go past 5 minutes.
Theoretically, you couldn't make a bigger match than that in your entire company. So that has to go last.
You know, given the angle, it probably will be the men's match.
I mean,
the 5-on-5.
But I mean, again, that depends on who is in the match and what star power you can gather. That's not Rollins, Ambrose, Brock Lesnar. That could be that. I mean, I guess Joe's available, but he's not a leading man, right?
Right. There's Joe. Joe should be back in time. Yeah, I don't know. This is going to be a strange month, and you're right. It feels like everything goes on hold now.
Well, obviously Kurt too. He's
yeah, you're right. You're right. The way they
Kurt
teased
and
the
Shane.
end of the show, Kurt and Shane are probably on each team. You're right. So, I mean, you'll have a team. The Miz comes out with Cesaro, Sheamus, and Curtis Axel, so it looks like they are keeping these four together at least, and says that Angle doesn't belong in the ring as a GM or a wrestler. He should resign immediately. And they surround Angle. Then the Shield's music plays, which prompts Rollins and Ambrose to come through the crowd and enter. Miz calls them sellouts for sucking up to management and that they are still outnumbered. So Angle announces he's going to make a tag match involving Miz, Sheamus, and Cesaro against Rollins, Ambrose, and this guy who stuck around for another night, AJ Styles, who comes out.
They must have listened to our show last week, because in our discussion, while I was bending over backwards defending this brand split, saying, well, it's not like AJ Styles is appearing on Raw. they do this to me. They fuck me over. And they put AJ Styles walking out on Raw. So, maybe there's something to what you're saying, John, about the lack of credibility in this brand split. They've certainly killed it all after tonight. But anyway.
I'm always excited when we've got Way in fine form, such as tonight, where I can tell you hated something worse than me, which is a rarity. That doesn't always happen.
Well, I mean, I guess I look forward to speaking about that. Maybe it's the jet lag.
Seth Rollins.
Hey, before we do that, did you notice this white piece of spit?
Yes, I know.
Spit
Kurt Angle had this white dot on his upper lip, and it's the only thing I watched for this entire segment.
The entire segment. I thought the first chance they could have had to get that thing off. Okay, they cut to the graphics, right? Full page graphic announcing all the matches for Survivor Series. I expected either the cameraman or whatever floor director they have out there to, hey, Kurt, you got something on your mouth. I would do that for you, John, if I was filming you and you had some shit on your face. But they cut back. This thing is still on his lip. They cut to the entrances with Miz and all these people. They cut back to Kurt. This thing's still there. I mean, man, poor guy.
Miz should have just wiped it off with his hand.
Yeah, seriously. This whatever it was. What was this?
I don't know what it was. Like, it was just this white dot. And it was just like some weird thing on his lip.
Like this white fluff or white like booger or something. Like it was too much. It was very distracting.
So we had the 6-man tag following that white piece of shit on his lip. Booker says the internet is about to crash now. Rollins worked the arm of Cesaro as the crowd was chanting for Styles, and they tagged him in. The babyfaces hit this triple pescado to the floor to set up the commercial break. Now, Graves identified this as a triple suicide dive. And the night before, Finn Balor did a tope con hero to the floor, which Graves also called a suicide dive. And Graves seems very like the least likely to make that faux pas when it comes to the identification of a move.
I guess any dive could be considered a suicide dive. You are risking your life, and therefore you could be attempting suicide. Technically,
I don't think anyone's even sprained an ankle off a botched pescado ever.
We all make mistakes. They have a lot of moves to call, and I'll grant Graves. You know.
Have you seen the video that Corey Graves has calls the Meltzer driver in the new 2K18 game?
I did. You sent it to me, so I saw it.
Oh, that's right. I sent it to you.
I
was setting you up for your joke you made.
Oh, first of all, I was amazed that they included Corey Graves saying the words Meltzer driver in the game. Unfortunately, it was not for the correct move.
No, so maybe this is Graves' new gimmick. He screws up the name of moves.
Well, at least he attempts them. I suppose if you're Michael Cole, you're best not to even attempt calling some of those moves. Though certain moves.
Oh my!
Yeah, what a maneuver. Those obviously, there are a lot of wrestling moves out there, and I think everybody's prone to some mistakes. So,
everyone should have a giant book that contains every wrestling move written inside of it.
The big book of wrestling moves.
It's a great resource.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't exist anymore, I don't think.
It's gone?
It's outdated. Very outdated. People just go to Wikipedia these days.
Ambrose landed a clothesline off the ropes. Rollins comes in, cleans house, hits a Falcon Arrow. Sheamus made the save. All 6 were in the ring. And then Rollins got a near fall. They went through a second commercial break. Styles and Cesaro were in. That was a lot of fun. Ushigoroshi was hit to Cesaro, and then an uppercut, and Rollins made the save. Sheamus goes into the post. Miz then does a double clothesline and is sent to the floor, takes a double clothesline. And then Rollins and Ambrose duck a Cesaro clothesline, hitting stereo real suicide dives to the floor as Styles hits the phenomenal forearm to Cesaro for the win. I thought this was a really great 6-man.
It was awesome. As much as I dislike them proving me wrong about the sanctity of this brand split, I do really love seeing AJ Styles in a 6-man with some of the talent here. I mean, I could watch a 6-man like this every single week. I thought it was a lot less hype, obviously, than the main event of last night, but I thought it was a better match than last night's main event for sure.
Do you imagine AJ in that main event?
I mean, I think it could have worked. It's hard, wouldn't have received the same level of interest as Kurt Angle returning, obviously. But as a match, it would have been a better match, no doubt.
Kane comes out. Booker T says that Kane went into business for himself last night, which is the new code for murder. They start fighting. The heels, this is when Rollins, Ambrose, and AJ are all still in the ring from the 6-man. So Kane starts fighting with the heels. Kane chokeslams Rollins, and the babyfaces are all left laying as his music plays to end the segment. This felt like when the Cruiserweights would go out and steal the show on Nitro, and then you'd have Kevin Nash or someone come out and just lay them all out. And we go to break. We got a commercial for Total Bellas, which the season finale is this Wednesday, Way. I don't think you've watched any of it this season, have you?
I've watched most of it.
You have?
Yeah.
You've been keeping us out in the cold?
Oh, you never asked.
I would expect it.
Well, you never asked.
Okay, well, I want a season finale review, 100%.
Well, okay, I actually don't know if I'll be. I've been kind of catching up on them when I can, so I'm not really watching week to week. So maybe later on, maybe like in next week, I'll catch you up. But it's been fun. It's been a fun season.
Actually, when I turned on my TV tonight to go watch Raw, it automatically turned on and Dancing with the Stars was on, and Nikki Bella was there right in my face.
Wow.
And her dance partner, I think his name is Artem, had his arm right around her as they're getting their scores, and all the judges gave them scores of 9 for a combined score of 36, and they are safe this week.
That's really good.
And then they cut to John Cena looking so awkward in the audience.
Oh, I'm sure they'd love him on Dancing with the Stars.
So after all of this, Kane is still in the ring. Then they air a TLC video package featuring Strowman's death. We come back, and Kane has the microphone. He says he heard the stories of Strowman wanting competition and all the attacks he's survived. Well, he thinks Braun is a pile of trash. Nasty human refuse. He looks into his eyes, into Braun's eyes, and says he saw fear. And he will always be Raw's only monster. Up until last week when he was on another brand. And with Braun gone, he wants competition or else. And Booker says, this is a different kind of Kane.
Yes, it is. It's a different kind of Kane. I kind of really like this end of career, very deliberately over the top version of Kane that haven't really seen in a while. He cuts that type of, demonic, menacing promo, but unlike Bray Wyatt, I can understand Kane's promos. I can understand what he was said here.
You just took this segment up like 12 notches for me by that comparison point.
I mean, they're really similar characters, and the delivery is even very similar. But like Kane doesn't speak in riddles, and at the end of his sentences, I can understand the meaning behind those sentences. So that's certainly an improvement.
What a bar we have set for promos.
Yeah.
I understand his words. So he makes a challenge, and Finn Balor answers the challenge. This match began, and Michael Cole had a Michael Cole line. He said, "You can only imagine the kind of condition Braun Strowman is in after being compacted inside a garbage truck last night." I can't imagine, Michael Cole. Please paint the picture for me. And then says he could be out for weeks or even months.
Or even eternity.
Have you ever climbed into the back of a garbage truck and been compacted away?
No, I never tried that yet.
I can't wait till Braun comes back. I hope the garbage truck backs into the arena and he just emerges from this dumpster truck.
I hope he's like thin now and maybe like even like 2 feet taller because he's like compressed, right?
He's
squished. Maybe he'll be shorter. Maybe he'll be like boxed like a little midget, like a little kind of like dwarf like person now.
He's Braun Strowman, his alter ego.
Brain.
Brains and Braun?
Ah, okay. Like Danny DeVito.
You know what? I will say this. I was watching Impact last week, and for all the criticism I discussed about last week's segment with Finn Balor and morphing in the middle of the ring, and of course with Bray Wyatt into Sister Abigail, I think it's really a credit to the Abyss Joseph Park dynamic. Like, that guy is a tremendous performer who pulls off both very, very well. Mm-hmm. And, I always thought the guy was very talented as a performer. I have that much more appreciation now seeing others utterly fail at the dual personality gimmick.
Actually, what's more impressive about Abyss Joseph Park is that he takes a huge role backstage. He's producing a lot of those segments. So the fact that he can do all that plus play essentially 2 characters at the same time, you're right. Like, I think people like that don't get enough credit. And I think there are things that Impact actually does a lot better than the WWE, and I would count these types of mythical presentations as one of those things. You see, what people like Borash have done with weird shit like the Broken Hardys or Decay. And then you see WWE's treatment, and you can make a great argument that Impact does these things much better.
Did you see the American Top Team angle last week?
I did not, no.
This was, for me, hands down, the best segment of Impact this year. Dan Lambert was so awesome on this segment. He came out and he carried this segment. This was like 10 minutes of Dan Lambert, who's probably never cut a promo in his life in front of an arena, just commanding that impact zone and getting heat in the impact zone, which is not the easiest task. This segment was great.
He's a real natural, man.
Oh, he is fantastic.
I mean, I would say maybe he's a natural, but I could also imagine that this guy probably practiced for many hours in his house growing up with his collection of wrestling belts.
Well, good for him. He was great on this segment. If there's any Impact segment to go back and watch, go watch the American Top Team invading the impact zone last week, and then the TNA guys run down to attack them, and Dan Lambert is dumbfounded that these guys are trying to pick a fight. He says, "Do you know who we are? Google us."
Awesome. Is he your breakout star of the year?
Oh, you know what? He might be my rookie of the year.
Wow.
He might be.
Damn, he'd be pleased to hear that. Yeah. You should actually, have you tried to interview him?
I should get him.
Yes.
He's going to be Glory. American Top Team is going to be at Bound for Glory, and I think they're sticking around for the tapings as well, because Colby Covington did an interview with our pal James Lynch stating that he'd be up there in Ottawa. So that's one of the things, is that we don't know if they're going back to the impact zone, and if American Top Team will still be part of plans going forward.
Does he actually still coach MMA? Because it feels like he's heavily involved in this.
Yeah, this might be his priority at the moment. Getting back to Kane and Finn Balor, Braun Strowman, you can only imagine, what kind of condition he's in. Kane dropped Finn with a boot, and then Balor gets up, sends Kane to the floor, and then runs at him, is caught, run into the barricade, and Kane works over the lower back. Balor starts his comeback, hits a running drop kick, climbs to the top for the coup de grace, but Kane sits up, grabs him by the throat, takes him down from the turnbuckle. 1 choke slam, 2 choke slams, 3 choke slams. Kane pins Finn Balor, and man, Twitter exploded like it was a Kane entrance. People were very upset with this result.
Yeah,
I think it was more upsetting for people because Finn Balor benefited significantly from the change in plans on Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
Him and I think AJ too, both of them needed to just go out and have a hot match, and they did, and it felt like all this shit for Finn was in the past, but Kane is one of their major heels they're pushing right now. I think for this feud with Braun, and I think eventually with Roman. And
that's no excuse though, John, because Kane.
I'm not defending it.
Kane is like 45. He's a mayoral candidate for Knox County.
Wait, he's 50.
50. He should not be beating Finn Balor. Like, I know you need to push Kane, but put him over, bring back Mark Henry, whatever.
You don't need to push Kane. You do not need to push Kane, but they clearly are for this Braun feud.
But there's no need to have him beat Finn Balor, who just went from one of the worst feuds of the year and overnight to a dream match that had everyone's attention and ended up...
Why? Sorry. Why couldn't this have been Matt Hardy?
Great question. Perfect.
Matt Hardy would have filled this... And you even have a backstory with them too. But you don't even have to go into that. Matt Hardy is a guy. And this segment called for a guy. That's it. Why it was Finn Balor? Perplexing.
And to not even lose, but to lose in this fashion. You know, you're not only sacrificing Finn, but you're sacrificing AJ Styles' loss to Finn Balor, to Kane. It was perplexing.
Mind-boggling to me. Kurt Angle's on the phone, and Shane McMahon walks in, and he says he's still feeling the effects of Hell in a Cell, and Shane puts over Kurt's performance last night. They go over the Raw and SmackDown matches, and Shane brings up how SmackDown won last year. Angle says, I wasn't the GM last year. And Shane says SmackDown will annihilate Raw, and they're all laughing. Ha, ha, ha. And Shane says in Twitter speak, it will be #under siege, which is going to be a name you are going to want to put a gun to your head over the next month having to hear. And Angle tells him to enjoy my show. Under siege, Way.
Why wouldn't they just call the pay-per-view Under Siege and put it on a boat? Was it a submarine? What was it?
I don't know. It was a 92 Seagal flick.
Yeah. Do you feel like I mean, I wonder why they didn't get Bryan here.
I think I know exactly why. Because
why is that?
I think you wanted SmackDown to look like the bullies here, and I think Daniel Bryan would have elicited a positive response for the SmackDown team. I thought it was smart to keep Bryan out of this.
I guess you're right, and perhaps maybe they have intentions of having Shane in the match too. But I guess I expected them to, because they built up Shane's return so much, that they would have kept Shane off until SmackDown. But I guess he's on the road, so it makes sense. It's fine.
Asuka and Emma take 2 occurred on Raw. Quickly, did you think that it was a good debut for Asuka, a bad debut, or just a mulligan?
I thought it was a good match, so I thought it was a good debut. But I think my issues with it were the same issues I had with this match, in that they probably gave Emma too much. Because Asuka is somebody you should be pushing, and you can push as a monster. You don't really have too many of those in the women's division. So somebody who's been built up this much shouldn't have this much difficulty beating somebody as lowly ranked as Emma. You save that for your higher caliber opponents like a Sasha or a Nia Jax. It all kind of makes Asuka come across like she's only slightly above Emma's level.
So they had a match. It was shorter than the pay-per-view on Sunday. Emma took her by the arm, ran her into the corner post. Booker T at one point called out Corey Graves for not having a podcast. Emma was in control, repeatedly ran her into the turnbuckle, got stopped with a missile drop kick from Asuka, who hit her with a series of slaps and a spinning back fist, released German, running hip attack, and then Emma ducked a kick, kicked Asuka in the back and nailed her into the turnbuckle, and then went for an O'Connor roll, which Asuka kicked out of, and in doing so applied the Asuka lock, and Emma tapped in 5 minutes and 14 seconds.
It was a good match, just like last night, but there was really nothing that made you say, wow. And you could already kind of sense the crowd reaction here, losing a little interest slightly from maybe what the hype was, set up to be. It's unfortunate because there's really nothing you can do to have not many things you can do outside of like big spots like falling off of a Hell in a Cell or something that could make an audience go wow. It's hard to make people do that simply with wrestling. But if you book them like they were big deals, I think they stand a chance. But I get what they're perhaps trying to do. Like if you make the match too short, then you disappoint people. But I just almost felt like they went a little overboard here, trying to make a 50-50 match to cater to audiences, wrestling appetites, rather than, this was Emma in the end, and Asuka should not really be spending this much time to beat Emma.
Yeah, I think that with Asuka, these matches haven't been blowaway. I don't think it's been great, but I don't think this has been anything that's
so. Let me
awful.
ask you, John. Is that how much of that is due to the crowd? Because if they had the same match as last night in Full Sail, how do you think that it would have been received, and how do you think you would have come out of it?
I think it would have gotten across more. But at the same time, when they were bringing in Asuka in NXT, her matches, so much of it was just focused around her and her offense looking incredible, the crowd being in awe of her, and most of all, she felt totally different from anyone else in that NXT women's division, and I don't get that same feeling 2 matches in here. And I think that one of the biggest things you're going to have to battle here, and it may not be one you can even win, is keeping Asuka special and unique from all the other women in the division. And that, to me, is an argument that she shouldn't be just thrown into the Survivor Series match with the other women on Raw.
Oh yeah, I think that's what she'll be doing. The thing is, you can get away with that and still have her feel special. You kind of save her for like that big spot in the end. Save her for that monster spot, especially with Nia out of the picture for the time being. I think Asuka should be taking that role. But with Alicia Fox, there'll be some interesting interaction.
Yeah, I think that with Asuka, I'm not just making this comparison because they are both Japanese, but remember when Tajiri started in the WWE and there was like the first month of his television matches?
Yeah.
They were so different than everyone else on the show, and he felt so special. And
based on his moves alone, okay? Based on his kicks and the smack of those kicks and the tarantula and the mist, and it just like that was a time when people were going, holy shit. Yeah, sorry, go on, please.
Yeah, go back to June 2011 and watch the first month of Tajiri, who is just working his ass off and was getting over. And the comparison is that, you don't have someone that's a traditional great promo that you can put out there, but you cannot tell me that kind of style cannot get over to an audience, which I think there was a far larger audience watching in 2001 that you can't convince me that you just can't take a character that got over in a smaller place and get over in front of a larger audience today. So I think Asuka is an experiment. Everyone is watching with, I think
they should be done with experiments by now, man. Like they've experimented enough, okay? And we've seen them experiment with Shinsuke Nakamura and they failed, okay? Thus far, I would say. He's not a lost cause, but like they haven't
he's close
succeeded.
to it.
He hasn't.
He's not at what was anticipated. He's nowhere close to what was anticipated.
Honestly, like what's his name? Akira Tozawa was really the experiment, and they, I don't know, they went as far as they could have with that. I don't think they really succeeded there, and then they didn't succeed with Nakamura, with Asuka. I'm hoping for the best. But if I'm like Kairi Sane, I'd probably want to spend as much time in NXT as I can.
There was a video feature on Brock Lesnar sponsored by Wrangler Jeans, and then Alexa Bliss came out. She said that she defeated a future Hall of Famer and leader of the old folks home, Mickie James, who can now be put in the past where she belongs. Then she directed her attention to her opponent at Survivor Series, Natalya, the Cat Lady. She says there may be two brands, but there's only one goddess, and talks about you people with such disdain in her voice for the audience, and says how she is underappreciated and gets no respect. She said last night AJ Styles and Finn Balor stood in the ring and gazed in each other's eyes for like 10 minutes, and they immediately started chanting, "This is awesome." And the people hand out chants like it's Halloween candy, and asks if it's because she isn't old or have a 3-year-old son at home. Everyone's jealous of her, and she's going to have to spell out everything because we're in the Midwest, and this crowd is livid. And she tells them that you are going to act like sheep and repeat after me. And she starts chanting, "You deserve it," which the audience just boos. And then she says, "Did I not go slow enough for you people?" And it ended with Mickey interrupting. But first of all, I thought Alexa was tremendous in this segment.
She was great. She really got under the crowd's skin and had such a confident delivery of somebody who felt like they were a veteran doing this for a long time. So
this was Dan Lambert level.
Wow. That far? Are you sure,
Yeah.
John?
My breakout stars of 2017, Dan Lambert and Alexa Bliss.
Oh, my goodness.
Dan Lambert should be revealed as Alexa's rich father.
Yeah, sure, I could buy it. Yes. Yeah, but Alexa, I thought, showed why she's deserving of all the opportunities she's had over the rest of the roster since her debut, and why she's seems to be in a better position than people like a Sasha and people like Bayley right now, who I think had all the hype going into their debuts. Yet, I guess you can see on the main roster, they seem to put more of an importance on how well you can play your character and how well you can talk on the microphone versus how well you can wrestle in the ring.
So Mickey comes out, kicks Bliss in the gut, and then hits an implant DDT and tells Alexa, "You do deserve it." So at best, we're getting a rematch on television at a time when Alexa's going in a different direction. Mickey's probably going to be part of the Raw team. And this is everything that is going to be annoying about the next month.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So get used to it.
Yeah. But, I mean, to me, the big moment here was I've never seen a wrestler kick and DDT somebody in 6-inch heels. That was like a holy shit moment for me. Like, that's a very tough feat. Have you seen that? She did this, like, flawlessly, as if she was wearing, like Jordans or something.
No, good for her. I mean, she really made this a lot harder than it needed to be.
Well, maybe that was the point,
It would hurt a lot more, right?
Well, no, but maybe the point was she comes out in these, like, stiletto things, whatever they're called. And so you don't expect
Would you want to get kicked in the chest with one of those?
Well, she didn't kick her in the heel. She still kicked her in the toe. But my point is, it was like to distract her, to think, oh, she's wearing high heels, she's not gonna kick me, and then boom, kick out of nowhere.
That's psychological warfare.
Yeah. I would do that if I was to sneak attack somebody.
All right. Well, maybe if someone has 2K18, they can create the Wai Ting character in stilettos. Kurt Angle is watching all of this in his office, and Bayley and Sasha entered, and they acted like two 12-year-olds just raving about Kurt Angle's performance at TLC. And then Kurt says, "We need a captain for the Raw women's team," but Alicia Fox interrupts, and she wants to be the captain because she's been here the longest, and she's also the smartest. And she's wearing her T-shirt, Way.
Oh,
Crazy
yes,
like
yeah,
a
she
fox.
can't complain about it anymore. Yeah, she's wearing her shirt. Yeah, well, they seem to be obviously pushing Alicia Fox right now, and she dialed up the crazy even more here.
Okay, there was one thing that on the surface does not sound funny, but I found it amusing when Kurt just so over the top said, "We're going to settle things the way we always do." And Bayley and Sasha, the two 12-year-olds, yell together, "In the ring!" And Alicia cuts them off, thinking they would settle it with rock, paper, scissors.
Sorry.
Anyway, Wade just hit a rock. Angle tells Fox that the pin has to take place inside of the ring. I didn't really get that reference. If it was, I guess, did Alicia go for it?
I didn't watch the kickoff match. Did she...
I did, and I didn't get the reference. So
okay.
I don't care.
Know.
So
yeah.
I don't need anyone to bring me up to speed either.
I really like like I said last week, I really enjoy the Alicia Fox crazy character just because it's so wild, and I really don't think that anybody knows what to expect once they tell her to. It's like hitting a button. Go, Alicia. Be crazy. For that, she's very entertaining. I just think she needs the look to match. I think she looks like kind of like a clean model right now. She needs a look that's similar to like Laurel Van Ness on Impact. You know, someone with like smeared makeup and just messy. Somebody who's just like looks crazy instead of just kind of looking like every other diva.
Elias was in the ring. He went to perform his song. He took a shot at Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers, which infuriated this audience. And then he kept having technical issues. The crowd is chanting, "Go, Pack, go." And the chant takes over. He takes the microphone from the announcer and threatens the technician backstage. And Jason Jordan comes out, the audio technician himself. And Elias and Jason Jordan had a rematch. There was a long headlock by Elias. Then they go to the floor. Jordan drove Elias into the barricade twice, and then he runs at Elias into a guitar shot. And Elias loses by DQ at 3:17. Booker is defending Elias's actions, and Corey Graves is in a fit of laughter over Booker bending over backwards to justify the actions. And Booker says Elias wasn't the one who chose to fight on the floor, and Jordan was left for dead.
Sorry, I missed this because I completely tune out the commentary most of the time now. Like I don't mute it. I just like my mind tunes them out. What were they saying?
Booker was trying to defend what Elias did, and Corey is just
right.
It's not making any sense.
Because Corey's thing, even though he's a heel commentator, is that he hates Elias.
Yeah, but now the dynamic is that Booker is the heel, and it's like Cole and Corey are more of the baby faces than Booker is now, because Booker has now chosen several baby faces that he doesn't approve of, and Jason Jordan is one of them. So and Booker typically just comes across as this fool with Michael Cole and Corey Graves, and they point out his logic shortcoming.
So they will flip, I guess, who they side with depending on the wrestler, and not necessarily straight up heel or babyface anymore.
Yeah, it's more Booker as the heel rather than Corey now.
Interesting. Well, anyway, the match, I think they're trying really hard with Jordan. They're in ring. I think he's trying really hard. They're trying really hard by giving him the Taz gimmick, allowing him to suplex the shit out of all.
I don't know if we're at the Taz gimmick yet. I don't know if.
I mean,
the audio technician throwing lettuce is quite the human suplex machine.
Yeah, okay, not in that sense, but I mean, in ring at least, like his suplexes are his thing. He's suplexing the shit out of everybody. Unfortunately, I still don't find it to be enough to get him a reaction because I think his look is really bland, and I also think the gimmick is just, it's really holding him back, you know. So,
give him the FTU title. Fuck the universe.
Oh, okay. Yep, they could do that. I don't know if it would help. And then I don't know when they're gonna learn to not use these real guitars for these guitar shots.
Yeah, Jordan's shoulder was all marked up from this.
It was like a giant swollen purple welt as a result of this guitar shot. And why? I mean, call Jarrett. Ask him, hey, where do you get those? Where do you get those worked? Are those cheap guitars? Like, these look like they seriously hurt. So I don't think it was necessary. By the way, I think Elias needs to stop practicing guitar. Because he's actually getting kind of good. Like, I'm seeing improvement. And the gimmick, I think, is way better when he's a bad player.
We went to a commercial. I'm sure you missed this. But we had the Canadian News Slam update. And sometimes they don't get these, they'll be off by a week. And I noticed they have a spot promoting TLC for this Sunday, October 22nd. But the match they're promoting is not just the Shield taking on the four-man team of Miz, Cesaro, Sheamus, and Braun. So this was several weeks out of date.
No. Wow.
Not even having Kane part of this.
It's kind of tough to keep up with, eh? Like, because anytime, it makes you wonder how far in advance they make these decisions. Obviously, the Kurt Angle thing, they probably wouldn't have known. But, like, 3 weeks ago, what do you think the card was for Survivor Series? Was
Dude,
it...
Oh, sorry. I was going to say
sorry,
3 weeks.
Sorry, TLC.
3 weeks ago, the main event was The Shield against Miz, Curtis Axel, and Bo Dallas.
Right. Yeah.
Look how many versions of this match we went through.
And so if you're working for marketing or PR and you're in charge of all those promotional materials, and if you're any of their affiliates, I mean, imagine trying to keep up with all the changes every single time. I mean, I think the UFC has a tough enough job whenever like somebody gets pulled out due to whatever USADA or something. But wrestling, it should be something that you could control really easily.
This main event literally changed every week on Raw in the build-up to it, with either the addition or subtraction of bodies. Brock and Paul Heyman were out for the just at the end of the second hour. They replayed Jinder Mahal's challenge from SmackDown. Heyman says that someone has an issue with the term undisputed. This someone has barely survived the challenges of Randy Orton, Shinsuke Nakamura, and is up at night pondering how they will survive the challenge of AJ Styles, while Brock Lesnar has eaten through the most stacked roster in the history of the WWE on the flagship show. Heyman says we live in the age of trash talk. No one wants to give props, and instead they just run down their opponent, hurl insults at family members, brand their opponents as losers instead of box office attractions, and the king of the trash talk is the advocate holding this microphone. Heyman says, I don't trash talk Lesnar's opponents because anyone deemed worthy of fighting Lesnar must be a real man and have merit. He never trash talked Goldberg. He praised Samoa Joe, and he praised Braun Strowman, and he said rightfully so. But you, Jinder Mahal, the make-believe Maharaja with the Sing-Along Brothers, doing his own shtick to introduce Jinder. He is not Lesnar's contemporary nor his equal. You're not even a worthy pretender to the throne of being WWE champion. When you think of champions, you think of San Martino, Hogan, Savage, Flair, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, John Cena, and Brock Lesnar. We don't think of Jinder Mahal, a consolation prize champion. And Daniel Bryan, and Shane McMahon know that they got the shaft in the superstar shakeup. Lesnar's not here waving the flag of Raw, and then said in the biggest tongue twister of his career that he had to utter on live television, any brand that brags Brock Lesnar is the supreme brand. Don't know what the hell that line was. And even made
any brand that brags Brock is the superior brand, is what he said.
Okay. Lot of B's in there. He tells Jinder he's going to Suplex City at Survivor Series, and the last time a SmackDown star stepped into the ring, it had to be stopped because Lesnar put a hole through his head and violated every rule of the PG era and accepts the challenge. I would say that there is zero chance that Jinder Mahal is winning this match, but my God, this was something else to hear.
There's not zero chance.
You're right. There's not zero chance.
Especially the way that they set it up here. Heyman set Jinder Mahal as a massive underdog that they are deliberately underestimating here. And logic will tell you from wrestling booking that things will be a lot closer, maybe even all the way to the other end when the match actually comes.
I just think you're right. It is not 0%. I would say that if you have an idea in mind for Brock's next program, you could do something here and Jinder gets the fluke win. I just think that hurts both people. When you've had Lesnar run through everyone and he's going to get, even with a bullshit finish, beaten by Jinder Mahal, I think that idea sucks. I think the best you can do is that Jinder puts up a fight here and Lesnar at least begrudgingly respects him, which kind of babyfaces Jinder coming out of it. I hate this idea. I hate this match. I hate this.
Yeah.
I mean, they really positioned Jinder as just like Enzo in this segment. That's what it felt like.
Like a massive, undeserving underdog is how they've done it. The more I think about it, the more I think Jinder will win, and probably with shenanigans. Obviously it won't be clean, but I do feel like they will use this as an opportunity, one, to set up Brock's next match, but also to.
But who is that next match?
Whoever is up next. I mean,
like, you've done all this work all this year for Brock, and now we're going to trivialize it for a Jinder win?
They're going to try to do it in a way that won't trivialize it.
Then it means nothing. It's just
it will mean nothing. But the point is that Jinder can escape this. The thing you need to do if you're booking this match is to retain the value of both champions coming out of it, right? And Brock with a screwy finish will still keep his momentum, whatever. But Jinder, I feel like they will probably try to use this as an opportunity to give him another boost so that he can brag about beating Brock Lesnar, probably in a heelish way. And yeah, we'll see how that turns out. But it's an interesting angle. I thought a masterful performance from Paul Heyman here. One of his, I would say one of his best, but I can't really just say that because he's done so many good promos, especially this year. But it was tremendous. It's an interesting angle because unlike other recent Brock Lesnar matches where Heyman typically attempts to build up his opponents, Heyman here is deliberately saying that this guy is not good enough, and now it's almost up to Mahal to prove that he's on the level with Brock.
They recapped Enzo regaining the Cruiserweight title, and then Charlie interviewed Kalisto. We went from Heyman to Kalisto, and he is fine physically, but it was his dream to be a champion. It would be one thing if he lost someone he respected, but not Enzo. So he's invoking his rematch clause Tuesday night on 205 Live. Tonight is about Familia. And in comes Cedric Alexander, Rich Swann, Mustafa Ali, and Grand Metalik. The four Familia that Kalisto met 2 weeks ago when he showed up on 205 Live. And they will be Team Lucha tonight. And all of them did the Lucha chant with Charlie.
I know. She looked really goofy, but
they all did.
She proves she isn't a robot, at least.
I guess that's true. The Bill Goldberg 24 special is going to air Monday, November 13th after Raw. And then we had a three-way with Bayley, Sasha Banks, and Alicia Fox. And this match went very long. This is when fatigue was setting in for Wai and for me as well. There was a big Tower of Doom spot. Fox kicked out of a cover from Bayley. Bayley then hit a cutter to Alicia through the ropes to get a 2 count. Then Fox starts yelling that she doesn't want to play this game. So she takes the ring bell and starts ringing it over and over, which Booker believes signals the end of the match, and Graves just laughs, saying, no, it doesn't. Bayley then is setting up to attack Sasha Banks, and she extends her arms. Alicia shows up from behind and starts mimicking Bayley from behind, and then hits Bayley with a belly-to-belly, misses Sasha with a scissors kick, and Banks puts her in the bank statement, rolls into the center, and then ends up with Fox escaping, throwing Sasha into Bayley, and pinning Bayley. So Alicia Fox is your team captain for the Raw women's team at Survivor Series. If you can answer this question, who was the Raw women's captain last year, then you would know how important these stakes are.
Charlotte?
I have no idea. I could not tell you who the captain was.
Yeah.
You're probably right. Anyway, Alicia Fox is the captain.
Yeah, Fox felt like the total focus of this match. It was a match she led. Really built around her, and maybe that's why the match felt like it had such a slow and awkward pace, and it was kind of sloppy. You know, it was like the whole match was sort of an extension of her character and her personality. And I think the audience was probably so confused by her that when Sasha and Bayley at one point attempted their interaction with Fried Takayama spot, really received no reaction. I think Alicia's entertaining, but I don't like her as captain at all. I think you're just kind of trivializing this entire women's match because she's a comedic character, and I think to basically have her be the center focus of something that should be serious, it just unfortunately further drives the whole match down, including all the participants involved, like Sasha and Bayley.
After that, she celebrated with the Green Bay Packers in the front row. And then Enzo comes out with his 4 buddies, the Zoe Train. Drew, this was funny.
So why are they friends again?
They just are. They showed up one week and backed up Enzo, so they're all past the insults.
I thought I heard Graves or something say like Enzo's paying them. Is that? Do you know if that's a thing?
That was never explained on TV, other than Corey's throwaway line. So Enzo on Sunday night, obviously his voice was nearly shot, and on Monday it was gone. So Drew Gulak had to cut Enzo's promo for him, and he just reads a statement that his name is Enzo, he is indeed a certified G and a bona fide stud, and you cannot teach that, and went through the whole thing. And
in his Drew Gulak kind of like
yes,
serious voice. Yeah.
So I guess Enzo is, I mean, he's probably, there's stuff going around in the locker room, so he better be careful.
Maybe he just lost his voice.
Did you hear the line of the night at TLC was right after Asuka beat Emma, and Michael Cole goes, "There's something infectious about Asuka."
Did not notice that.
So anyway, this was funny with the Drew Gulak promo, I thought, and ends up with him saying that unlike Kalisto, who lost, it says Enzo lost his voice, but not the title, which Kalisto did, and he's a bigger letdown than the Packers, which was just their go-to line for heel heat. By this time, it was feeling a little overdone. And then each member of the team said a letter to spell soft. So Enzo's entire promo consisted of the letter T.
Well, it was more like a T.
Yeah, that was about it.
He couldn't say T. It was funny.
Then we had a 5-on-5 match, and Metalik flew all over the place with Tony Nese, spun on the middle rope into a missile drop kick. Babyfaces cleared the ring. Then Gulak blocked Kalisto, saying no diving. So they all super kicked Gulak right off the apron to the floor. Dar was in control of Swan. Everyone's fighting on the floor. Enzo's concerned, standing over his fallen teammates because he's avoiding being tagged in. But then him and Kalisto are tagged in. Enzo begs off. There's a handspring into an enziguri by Kalisto. Then Alexander and Ali hit dives to the floor. Ali totally overshot Drew Gulak. Then Swan and Metalik did dives off the turnbuckle to the floor, and it ended with Kalisto hitting the Salida del Sol, pinning Enzo, going into their rematch on Tuesday night. Really good finishing sequence and not a bad match.
Yeah, I thought, great closing high spots. I think, this, like a lot of things at the end of this show, crowd wasn't really hot for it, especially a match like this. But still, overall, I think the bar for this is whether or not it's an improvement over your typical Cruiserweight match without Enzo. And it was an improvement, so... yeah.
There's some stuff in the Cruiserweight division. You got to search for it. But I really am enjoying the Alexander Swan tag team. I think they work really well together. I mean, there's some things. It's just, is it must-see? No, it's not. But nonetheless. Main event time, or main event segment. Kurt Angle comes out, and all show long they have been promoting that he's going to announce the Team Raw, the men's team, to represent the brand at Survivor Series. Angle says, with a straight face, it's the only time Raw goes head-to-head with SmackDown. Except for last night and tonight. Angle gets interrupted by Shane McMahon, and before he can announce the team, Shane appears in the crowd with the SmackDown roster, all coming out because they had finished up their South American tour on Sunday, and Monday was an off night. They had no house show scheduled Monday night. It was just a travel day. So they were all available to come to Raw, and they were in their blue T-shirts. And I don't know if it was just me, but this, to me, made Shinsuke Nakamura just look so generic.
Oh, man. More so than Shinsuke, at the end of this lineup of Team SmackDown blue shirts, I noticed this guy that I don't think I've ever seen him before. Who's this like generic wrestler that's walking out? It was Bobby Roode.
Yeah.
Bobby Roode in a blue shirt looks like your most generic creative wrestler, and this guy was like your hottest thing that just debuted, and all of us this made him look terrible.
Yeah, for me it was Nakamura. These shirts are just.
It's never good, and I get it. Like from a visual perspective, they want a sea of blue people attacking a sea of red people. I get it.
It's like every complaint about the Reebok kits. Everyone looks the same.
Yeah. I don't think you need to have them in the blue shirts. I really don't. I think just to have a locker room. Maybe how about instead of blue shirts, they wear blue
hair
hats.
Oh,
toques.
Yeah, there you go.
Or blue, maybe fanny packs.
Yeah, that's a possible one as well. I will give them credit for this. First of all, what I mentioned about Daniel Bryan, I thought that was good because I think they wanted SmackDown to be the heels in this segment, and I think Daniel Bryan would have that wouldn't have been a good idea to have him part of this. Secondly, and this seems like so logical, but it's something that at times I could totally see them just overlooking. The fact they didn't have Owens and Zayn part of this was great.
True.
And they easily could have had that happen. So, I mean, it just seems like the most obvious call to make, not having them buddies with Shane here doing his bidding. But hey,
why do you have Rusev here then?
Well,
why do you have Baron Corbin here?
They're not feuding with Shane.
Yeah, but Rusev, we know, doesn't like Shane McMahon.
Well, that's the whole issue with all of this. I mean, you couldn't just bring the baby faces over. You'd have 3 guys. You'd have Ty Dillinger, Nakamura,
anyway,
and Rude. Like, that's about it with AJ. So anyway,
go on, please.
We'll get into this. Shane just comes into the ring and says, "Under siege." An Angle is sent to the back. Shane sends the SmackDown crew after him. So they go backstage, and this was like a video game where SmackDown, this was like us watching Doom play out, and you could go through the different levels of difficult opponents. You start off, you literally saw a pyramid scheme of the talent on Raw with Titus and Apollo at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And they attacked those two, left them laying, and Baron then attacked a PA. So maybe Titus will come back on SmackDown and attack a cameraman.
Baron attacked the PA while Baron Corbin attacked the PA while Shinsuke Nakamura was cheering in the background. Think about that. Think about like any of this. Suddenly, everybody is a piece of shit bully just because they're putting on this blue shirt with no explanation. I don't know what they're fighting for. I don't know why. How Shane managed to convince all these guys to attack innocent people. They're doing heelish shit like for no reason overnight.
Dolph Ziggler, who has just spent the last 3 months running down everyone on the roster who can't touch him, that all have these shitty entrances, and now he's just buddy with everybody, including the guy he's feuding with, Bobby Roode. There was a lot wrong with this. So they take out the PA. Then they see the biggest villain of all, a television monitor with the Raw logo on it. So they destroy the TV. Then they run into our second tier of talent, Goldust, Kurt Hawkins, Rhino, and Curtis Axel. Then they move into the locker room where the decent talent gets an actual locker room, where Jason Jordan, Matt Hardy, and Dash Wilder are occupying this locker room. I think Anderson and Gallows might have been in there too. Then they go through a set of doors.
Okay, by the way, who attacks Jason Jordan?
I missed it. Who did?
Chad Gable.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow, I missed that.
I mean, these two are still supposed to be friends, last we heard. Okay, please continue.
The fact that I totally didn't even catch that, I mean, that speaks volumes right there. That should have been something meaningful. So then the women are there. So the women attack the women as the men just watch. So Alicia, Mickey, Bailey, and Sasha are all left laying. Presumably those are 4 of the 5 women. We know the 3, and then I figure Mickey's on the team as well. Then they go into the back area. Rollins dives off of some riser, and Ambrose has a chair, but then they get beaten down due to numbers. They were the only 2 stars part of this. There was no Miz, there was no Kane, there was no Finn Balor, obviously no Braun Strowman with the injury. So that's kind of the level. We had Ambrose and Rollins as the 2 stars that were part of this. And then they have taken Kurt Angle hostage, and they're holding him by the arms. This Olympic gold medalist who just did a TLC match the night before against 5 guys is now treated like he's a 12-year-old child that has been abducted. He is brought back out to the ring, and Corey is stating, "I thought we had a great working relationship." The voice of both shows. And Shane says he wants Kurt to bring his gold medal and what's left of the Raw roster, and they'll finish what they started at Survivor Series. It's true. It's damn true. And the SmackDown pricks leave the arena, and Angle was told, look stunned. And look stunned for about 4 minutes, because we're going to constantly cut to you back and forth from the SmackDown talent leaving. And Kurt just had to have this silly look on his face forever as this segment ended, and the show did too. Like, I get you're starting a interpromotional feud from nothing and trying to do something big, but it was so absent from everything. You had to ignore so much in this segment to get across what they were trying to.
It seemed like they had an idea of a visual they really wanted to end this show with. And, I thought the tone of the attack was, like, good. Like, here's a big crew of people taking over. Like, it kind of felt like the Nexus thing, maybe a little bit. I think that the Nexus thing was way better than this. But that's the tone that they wanted to set, just like a bunch of people fucking shit up. And they managed to do that. But, like, I think the problem here was, aside from, like, the weird babyface heel dynamic, you haven't given a reason why these people are united. You haven't told us what they're fighting for at Survivor Series. And don't let it be a trophy, because that won't work. It has to be real stakes. Why is Dolph Ziggler suddenly working with the company? Why is Shinsuke Nakamura suddenly happy that Baron Corbin is attacking an innocent PA that works for Raw? You need something. You need a reason that unites everybody. And something like I've talked about before. Something that got me back into comics in the 90s was when Marvel and DC did a crossover, and it was called DC versus Marvel, and they had to, they had like a united Marvel super team versus a united DC super team, like heroes and villains that would normally not work together. But the reason they all started to work together was because their universes were in danger of ceasing to exist. So they were fighting to keep their universes alive. And this feud needs something like that. Raw versus SmackDown needs something like that. Whether it simply be, hey, the winning roster gets to make more money, or the winning roster gets to keep their jobs, or the winning roster gets to have their show kept on air. Some bullshit like that. There you go. That explains why Nakamura will be cheering Baron Corbin attacking this innocent kid. Why Chad Gable will attack Jason Jordan, his friend. It's something like that I think they needed for an attack like this, because otherwise it felt completely confusing and completely unearned. Beyond that, my biggest issue with this segment, I can't believe I even finished watching this show, because the fucking camera work at the end of this segment was some of the worst. Like, I know these are really talented camera people. These are really talented producers. And I know all that shaky cam stuff is something that they're being told to do. It was too much. Like, I gagged watching this show, because I felt so nauseous watching this. Okay, they're walking. Oh, steady. Attack. And then it's just like a shaking camera the whole time. And this went on for what, like 8 minutes? It was unwatchable. It felt like being on like a shitty roller coaster. And I felt like I had to really force myself to sit there and finish watching this show so I could talk about it for this fucking review. But if I didn't have to, I would have switched it off like 2 minutes in.
Wow. I can't say it any better. I feel that, we always make references to this brand split, and when they do little things like, oh, all of a sudden Corey Graves is the voice on both shows, and we do all this little stuff where we just concede that they're not doing anything to try and make this a rivalry. And you do that for 11 months out of the year. And then tonight you suddenly say, no, it's now a blood war. And the audience is just, they don't take it as such, because they know it's not. And you can't just spend 11 months. Look at the rosters a year ago. And then you do something like the Superstar Shakeup. And when a talent is moved over to Raw, what do? They come out on Raw and they're all smiles. There's no hesitation about being moved from one brand to the other. There's no brand loyalty when it's the superstar shakeup. They come out and they're so happy to be on the other show. And now it's life and death that we are going to fight for this brand that we are presently on, that half of us won't be in 8 months' time. So to me, you're right. Unearned might be the best way to describe this. You've done nothing to give your audience any motivation behind this. Like, I get it. You're trying to do something.
You haven't given your characters any motivation.
Nothing. Like this, like literally just the idea of having AJ Styles just willy-nilly on the pay-per-view last night, and then he comes back tonight. And now it's
AJ Styles in this last segment attacked the same people that he teamed up with at the beginning of the segment.
Like no tease of anything in the 6-man, like nothing that would even be like I thought using AJ in that match was at least to, do some kind of an angle, do something to set up Survivor Series, even if it was something very subtle. There was nothing. And then all of a sudden, we're at war 2.5 hours later. So it comes out of nowhere. It's like, well, it's Survivor Series. So now it is suddenly fight to the death. And yeah, it
was awful. It was awful. Hey,
that's Raw. And you're probably right. You're probably right that it's Kurt and Shane on both sides. I don't know that for a fact, but that's certainly the impression you were left with. And again, what do you do now with Shane, Owens, and Zayn, which is your hot program? And that has to be on hold now.
I think they're going to be part of the team.
I hate that. I hate Shane teaming with those two, if that's what we have to do. And you're probably right. So anyway,
do you think the Money in the Bank will play a part into this match? And is she eligible for the Raw title?
Oh, you mean Carmella cashing in on Lexa potentially?
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I don't really like that idea. And what, she wins it and then SmackDown has both titles? Or she loses.
Whatever. I'm not thinking that far ahead.
I could honestly, I kind of hope between The Miz, Corbin, and Alexa and Natalya that they do a title change over the next few weeks and change the match. And one of them just goes into, those matches just sound so cold to me.
Yeah, they all do. What does that say about your champions?
Wow. The champions, it doesn't, that alone is not a
I mean, it's also the fact that they're double heel for the women. I guess they're double babyface for the men with the Usos tags. Kind of double.
The Usos are now.
Yeah, whatever Brock is. I mean, Brock will be babyface in that match. What about what's the Corbin and who? Miz?
Corbin and Miz, dude. Can you think of a worse match?
Awful.
Holy Christ! Just sit on your hands, folks. That match sounds terrible. I don't want to see that at all. I don't want to see that match for a second. Miz and Baron Corbin. Done.
I've not felt a guttural reaction to any match announcement like that. Just the announcement of that match.
Corbin. Fuck. The camera work you saw, that match made me gag and nauseous. All right, so that was Raw, folks. It's Survivor Series season. It's a frustrating build for over the next month, I am sure.